So Orientalism it's a theory that the West has presented the East in a very backward and uncivilized way.
Yeah.
That is the narrative that, a lot of Western politicians attach themselves to, and is even manipulated by the media to, again, justify things like Western intervention.
Hello and welcome to the Knowness podcast, the vault of knowledge. So hello, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Momina Baig. I am the politics subject lead for Knowness.
Okay, perfect. So tell me a bit more about your background. So are you in university? Have you studied?
Yeah, so I'm in my third year of university. I'm studying politics and international relations.
Okay, how's it going?
Busy right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on winter holidays now, but I also have a lot to do.
Okay, yeah. Okay, politics university. If someone was to tell me they study like medicine or English literature, I'd kind of have like a solid idea of what it is to study those subjects, right? Particularly because of my background.
Yeah.
And because I've done maths in school, I've done English in school.
Yeah.
But politics, it's not really it's not really like a core GCSE subject. So what's it like studying it at university?
I think there's a lot that is covered within politics. I think a lot of people, when they hear that you study politics, it's like, oh, you study either British politics or, I don't know, something to do with corruption. Or, more Western politics.
Yep.
But at university, you have a broad range of modules that you can choose from. There are core, more theoretical modules that we have to study, but the optional modules are really good.
Okay, and what kind of modules have you kind of come across?
Well, the ones that I've studied have been more international relations focused, just because I prefer that aspect of politics.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of overlap between them.
Of course.
So in my second year, I did one on the international relations of the Middle East. And I also studied a module on race and identity in post-colonial Britain, which is really good.
Okay. And is this when you're going into university, was this your first time, doing politics, or did you have experience before, like maybe GCSE or A-level?
I did study politics at A-level, and that's what made me want to study at a higher level.
Oh, that's kind of what made you want to decide that's what I want to do long term. Okay. And what was the jump like between A-levels and university? Because I know for certain subjects the jump is massive. But I think for subjects like law, it's like that. It's a massive jump.
Yeah.
But other subjects like chemistry, it's a bit different.
I do think it was quite, not big, but it was different to what I was used to.
Gotcha, yeah.
Because at A-level, there was a specific specification. I knew what I was studying. There was UK politics, US politics. And then we also did political ideologies. But at university, it was very theoretical in my first year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything that I had come across before at A-level. And then again, with the range of optional modules we had, it wasn't anything that I had studied at A-level.
Gotcha, yeah. Okay, let's say someone comes up to you and they say, I'm thinking about doing politics at university. If I do politics at A-level, will it give me kind of like a good idea of what it's like at university level? Or do you think it's very different?
I think it's good to take it because it gives you a good background. And I think it's a good basis to have when studying politics at university. But I also do think it's not necessary. There are people who I know at university who haven't done politics at A-level, but study it at university and are completely fine with it.
Gotcha, yeah. No, okay, that's good. That's good. And you mentioned another one, like Middle Eastern politics.
Yeah.
What draws you to that as well?
Well, I really like looking at the way that the West portrays the Middle East and, challenging that perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that we've done a lot in that module and also this semester as well.
Would you recommend people to kind of look into that and take it?
Yeah, definitely.
What are the kind of things you kind of learned from that as well?
Just generally?
Yeah, just generally. What are the kind of things you've gone into that with? Has your perspective changed on anything? Or have you, kind of learned new things or gained insights which you previously didn't have?
Yeah, definitely gained insights into, areas of the Middle East that I have very limited knowledge on.
Okay. Can you give any examples or anything? Or maybe more general things that you kind of learned.
More general things.
Yeah.
we learn about the different theories and different ways that we can learn about areas such as the Middle East.
Okay.
And usually I don't really like the theoretical stuff that we have to study at university, but, we studied it at the start of the module, and at first I didn't, I had very limited knowledge about it and how that can be used to study the Middle East. But, as the module went on and as we learned more about different case studies, that's when the theoretical understanding of it came in.
Oh, okay. That's when you started to like kind of, all come together and like piece together and stuff. Okay. But, moving, is it only 3? Is it a 3-year course? Or is that, okay. So then moving after this third year, which I think is your final year, right?
This is my final year.
Yeah. Moving on forwards, what's kind of like your career outlook? Do you think it will still remain politics heavy, or are you unsure?
I definitely don't want to work at the forefront of politics. I think the second that I tell someone that I study politics, the follow-up question is always, oh, well, do you want to be a politician? And, that's not the case for me and for a lot of people. I think that there's definitely a lot more that I want to learn, and I'm quite sad that this is my final year of university.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I think I would want to work for a bit and then possibly do a master's.
Okay. And do you think there's any like kind of like stigmas around politics, right? Because I think there's a lot of assumptions people have. Like you say politics, they'll come and they'll say, are you a politician?
Yeah.
Or maybe you'll say, I study politics, and they say things like, what are your thoughts on, the Syrian war or Israel and Palestine, or these very like, political topics that are at the forefront of the news.
Yeah.
What kind of, do you think there are any like stigmas around saying I study politics out there?
I think people have the assumption that you're quite argumentative, or that maybe you're not. Wait, can you repeat the question?
No, that's right. It's a bit of a confusing question. But just like kind of like the stigmas of either politics or studying politics, right?
Yeah.
Because me personally, I don't know much about politics. Again, I completely agree. If someone was to tell me they study politics, I would assume they're probably quite argumentative.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're very like knowledgeable about the hot topics in the news right now, like Israel, Palestine, or the Syrian civil war. So the question is kind of like, what other stigmas do you think are out there about studying politics that you think shouldn't really be there anymore? It's a bit of a difficult question. But.
Yeah, I think some people assume that there's only one route that you can, like one career path, which is being a politician. Yeah. But I do think that now with any social science course, you can go into anything really.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be, related to politics. I think it's more about the skills that you learn.
Yeah. And that's like the main thing, isn't it? It's like there's transferable skills you can take from the course, like you said, the communication skills and whatnot, and taking that forward onto other career paths as well. So that's another important thing to raise. But is there anything else that comes to mind, or? Again, it's a bit of a hard one because you're in it already. It's kind of hard to know what the stigmas are or what people think about it.
Yeah. What would you say are the stigmas? Like from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. So I guess another one would be that you're, perhaps maybe that people who study politics are, like you said, argumentative, or always looking for, controversial topics or stuff like that. Would you say that's the case, or in your experience?
Not really
at all. Yeah. This,
But then again, I might just be used to having these discussions with people.
Yeah. Have you had any like really heated debates or discussions in your time?
Yes. Yeah.
And how did those go?
Well, it ended fine.
Yeah.
We just kind of agreed to disagree.
But you feel like you kind of developed those skills over time of like being able to kind of like
resolve like I definitely wouldn't have been able to do all this in my first year.
Yeah. Because you don't have as much of those skills and stuff. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And politics in general. Do you think that more people should study it, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are quite unaware of what's going on around them, and studying politics gives you that opportunity to learn more.
Yeah. And to kind of develop the awareness and stuff like that. And I think because you're only finally doing a dissertation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's that one? Talk to me about that.
So my dissertation is an exploration on the selective application of responsibility to protect. I don't know if you've heard.
Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, I know. Do you know of responsibility to protect or no?
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so it's to do with humanitarian intervention, and it's a doctrine that was adopted in 2001. That basically it's about states protecting citizens of failed states, or a state that failed to protect its own citizens.
So then them stepping in.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a bit more about it. What does that kind of involve?
So I'm critiquing the doctrine because I'm going to be arguing that it leads to more harm than good.
More harm than good,
Yeah. And it leaves the state in a situation where, there might be a power vacuum for another state to intervene.
Gotcha.
Which could lead to more destruction in the state.
Yeah.
Or it just has a very detrimental impact on citizens.
Mm-hmm. So it's a short-term kind of solution, but long-term needs to...
Yeah.
Are there any examples of this in history that you can think about?
Well, my case study is on Libya.
Mm-hmm.
I chose this case study because, one, I don't know enough about it, and I think that it's a good opportunity for me to learn more about it. Yeah. And I'm focusing on Libya in the post-2011 context, so after the Arab uprisings. And why it was that the UK and the US decided to intervene in Libya specifically when there was, obviously there was evidence of human rights abuses there, but also in states like Bahrain, it was a similar situation, but there was no intervention there. So it's like, why, why is it, Libya? And also, why is it that, the responsibility to protect is not then implemented in states like Palestine, where, there is evidence of
the same issues going on. Okay. And the same kind of like thoughts behind what happened in Libya, and that duty to protect is not being applied elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And why do you know, why is that? Do you have any ideas, or is that kind of, are you still getting into it?
I think there's multiple reasons. The main one is, just the usual that the West want to pursue their own geopolitical interests in the region.
Their own benefits and stuff like that. And there's that kind of word that's thrown around a lot, like the military industry complex. Is that kind of come into it as well, or?
Do you mean like the military savior complex, or?
No, I don't remember the exact words where the whole idea where the military benefits a lot from like war, from like selling weapons and ammunition. Where it's the case that like they make so much money and profits from war.
Yeah.
Does that kind of play a role into this kind of stuff, would you say?
I think so, but it's not an aspect that I'm focusing on in my dissertation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's like it's a whole.
So like I don't.
Yeah. I guess yours is more so on like the selectivism. Of why this place and not these other places. Okay. And is there much like, if I wanted to like read up into this, is there much like out there, or not really, from your own research?
There is, but I'm doing it more through an Islamophobic and Orientalist lens.
Gotcha, yeah.
And saying how just the concept of responsibility to protect is Orientalist.
Gotcha. In and of itself, it's... Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I guess it comes back to the whole phrase of like history repeats itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the only way to kind of combat that is to gain that awareness, right? And this is your current dissertation. Were there any other things you wanted to kind of do it on, or?
Yeah, I was quite indecisive about it.
Yeah, I can imagine, because there's a lot to like kind of...
Initially I wanted to do it on focusing on the UK and how politicians from an ethnic minority background perpetuate Islamophobia and kind of legitimize it within the public sphere. But there wasn't enough literature on that, so then I couldn't do it on that.
Yeah. So what does that kind of mean? It's a lot of big words.
Well, we see a lot of white politicians being Islamophobic, but not treating it as racism.
Gotcha. Yeah. Not accepting it as...
Yeah. And a lot of politicians from ethnic minority backgrounds, such as, Priti Patel or Suella Braverman, adopted this rhetoric to then justify, what they were talking about, whether that was about immigration. And I think the public seeing that, it's not just white politicians who are being Islamophobic. Well, to them, they wouldn't even see it as Islamophobia.
Yeah, it's just normal.
But then having... politicians of color doing the same almost makes it seem like it's nothing bad and it's not racism, it's not Islamophobia. They're just... They
kind of like legitimize that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just normal. Gotcha. Okay. Anything else? Was there other things you wanted to kind of get into as well, or was that the main thing?
The other one was... I just wanted to do it on the double standard of, again, Western intervention and resistance.
Oh, and they're like kind of views on resistance versus other forms of resistance.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned with the other one as well, there wasn't as much literature around it, right? Do you do a lot of reading around politics?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was only asking because I'm trying to get back into like reading and stuff.
Yeah.
Would you have any recommendations, or for the viewers as well, on books around politics that you think of are important from your experience?
The one that I think is quite good is Orientalism by Edward Said.
Oh, okay. What's that kind of about?
It's
Well, like, a bad question. What is Orientalism?
Well, it's
not everyone might know.
It's the belief that the East is presented in a very backward way.
Yeah.
That they're uncivilized, undemocratic, and that the West is what then has to come in to correct that,
to fix
that way of living.
That yeah. Okay, and is that kind of what that book's about as well?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not really something that you kind of like see much about in the news or learn about either. Well, what else would you say is like a good read?
You put me on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't think of it, I can't remember it.
I can't.
It's probably quite a lot to remember. But yeah, I feel like that's like a really like. I feel like with politics again, it's something that people don't really have much understanding of.
Yeah.
It's not like with chemistry or maths where growing up it's a part of your life.
Yeah, it's pretty factual. Like it's not.
And it's factual as well. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's you've learned about it your whole life and it's very factual. Whereas with politics, it's a bit harder to kind of. It's kind of harder to have that as like a course. Would you? What's? I mean, that's another thing I'm not really sure about because with politics, how is it in terms of like learning? Is it just a bunch of like history facts, or is it when they teach it, do they just present you with a range of opinions, or how does it kind of work?
I think it depends on the module that you take. So the more theoretical modules are pretty factual.
Yeah.
And then we have different case studies that we can choose to look at, like whether that's in an assignment or ones that our lecturers use. But then in our optional modules, they could literally be on anything. So it leads to discussions that could have multiple perspectives on. Yeah.
Okay. And going in, like, from the start of your time at university to now, has there been anything that you've kind of changed your opinion on because of the different views you see, or bit of a good question. Maybe there's nothing, but is there?
I wouldn't say there is, no.
I don't think so. Okay, you kind of like.
I think it's just strengthened my beliefs and
gotcha.
Helped me have a more clear understanding of them.
Gotcha. Particularly from having, insights into the other perspectives and whatnot. Yeah. Okay, that's very
like I'm definitely more open-minded, but it's not changed my core beliefs.
Gotcha. Just kind of strengthened them even more.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And what would you kind of say like is if you were to go back to first year, right? Like you personally, what's kind of the advice you'd give yourself going into politics at university?
Yeah. I guess to not be worried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I remember when I started first year, I was quite overwhelmed by how different it was to what I was used to at A level. And so, I didn't really know how to go about it.
Yeah.
And also I didn't know who could help me. But there are people who can help you. You just need to reach out.
Yeah, just to find them and Okay, that's good. I don't know, if I was to, restart, right, and go back to university and start politics, Again, I don't know if we'd call this like a stigma or anything, but when I think of politics, it's so broad. Like medicine for me is or like dentistry, for example. It's not super broad. Dentistry is like just teeth. Obviously, for a dentist, it's a bit more than that. But that's how I view it, right? And medicine it's very contained to the human body. But politics is so broad. You have American politics, you have Vietnamese politics, Middle Eastern politics. I would be interested in like Algerian politics. Going into a course of politics, do you have the freedom to do any of those, or is there a bit of like a limitation on that?
I think it depends on the university that you go to, which is why I would recommend for students to look into the different courses.
Oh, so is it all available like beforehand to kind of see?
Yeah. You can definitely have a look at, the optional modules that each university offers. I mean, although they do change sometimes, but it's good to have a look.
Oh, that's okay. Gotcha.
Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
No, that's just basically just it. Like if I was interested in like a specific part of politics, like American politics.
Yeah.
Is that something that you'll be offered, do you know? Or?
Yeah, there was a module in second year, I think, that looked at US domestic politics.
Gotcha,
It wasn't something that I took though. So
Yeah,
I can't tell you more about it.
No, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I'm not particularly interested like specifically in American politics, but you know, it's like I said, politics is just so broad.
Yeah.
Do you not think that might be a bit overwhelming? Would you say, or not really?
Yeah, definitely. But I think that, you know, as you get more choice in second and third year and you can pick what modules you study, that's when you can find the area that you're specifically interested in. And then, you know, use that to then offer you inspiration for, you know, your dissertation or further studying as well.
Also kind of like on an examination level. Is it like, do you get like MCQs or
is it just no.
Yeah, because we were like MCQ based.
Yeah, so. No, most of our modules assess us through assignments, so it's just coursework.
Yeah.
Some do have exams, so I have an exam in January for one of my modules. But again, the exams are like written exams, the essays that you have to do.
It's not like you know, MCQs or anything like that. Yeah, gotcha. More so like essay and like you know. Do you know if it's kind of like similar to other like humanitarian subjects like history and law, or what would you say? In case like if you happen to have any experience with those?
Yeah, I do have some friends doing law. Their assignment, well, the way that they are assessed is mainly through exams. Yeah, I have a friend who does history. She has a lot of coursework just like me, but she has mentioned how with her they sometimes have to do presentations or group projects as well. Yeah. So but it's just not what I've had.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you know, if someone was to tell me they studied maths or medicine or chemistry, I feel like I'd have a strong idea of what it's like because I've done these subjects at GCSE level, at A level. Even like if someone was to tell me they studied dentistry, you know, it's very limited to like the teeth or whatever, I'm sure. With medicine, it's kind of limited to the human body and beyond that as well. But what's politics like? What would you say if someone asked you, what's politics like at university? How would you describe it?
I'd say it definitely differs from university to university. But generally, what it's like is that in first year, you study, I studied 4 core modules, 2 per semester, and then 1 optional module. And the core modules are quite theoretical, so they give you the foundation of what it's like to then study politics in your second year and your third year. So I remember in my first year, we looked at comparative politics and looking at the way that states are governed in different countries. Oh, okay. So our case studies mainly focused on Europe. And we also had another module on analysing politics. So it was the different aspects of politics. So what is a state? What is representation? What is politics even? Okay. And I think that's what it's like in your first year with the core modules, because it just gives you a foundation of what it's like to be studying it in your second and third year. And in my second year, we did a module on research design that I remember. Again, this was another core module which set us up for our third year when writing a dissertation, and that's what it was mainly focused on. So I remember the way that we were assessed was by writing a research proposal as if we were to do a dissertation. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I think the core modules again prepare you for your second and your third year, and also for the optional modules and the ways that you can study these optional modules.
Okay. And when it comes to the modules themselves, right? So I've got an interest in different sides of politics, which I don't know if they'd be available. For example, let's say if I was interested in American politics or Middle Eastern politics, is there a module for all of these things, or does it depend per uni, or how does it kind of work?
I think it definitely depends on the university that you go to. Yeah. Because I know that in third year, we've had a module on US domestic politics. Yeah. That was in my second year. Can't really remember because I didn't do this module, but I know that I remember it being offered.
It was a thing, yeah.
But when I compare it to my friend who's at Warwick doing politics and international relations there, that might have been a module in a different year, or might not have been a module at all. So again, it just depends on the university that you go to.
And how, is it available like online before you go into university? Or?
Yeah, so if you go on the website, if you have a look at, just type in like BA Politics and International Relations, or straight politics, or even just international relations.
Yeah.
You should be able to have a look at the optional modules.
Oh, so it's all there before you apply and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could change.
Yeah.
Depending on whether the university want to keep it on or not, because they are always changing and adding more on.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to have a look.
And did that kind of factor into why you applied to Birmingham, or does that come into it?
Yeah, I did have a look at the optional modules that were there.
Yeah. And what were the kind of ones that you took? What was the
modules?
Yeah.
If I can remember.
If you can remember, yeah.
Yeah, in my first year, I remember I did one on British politics.
Yeah.
Can't remember the other one that I did. In my second year, I did feminist political ideas, race and identity in post-colonial Britain, and international relations of the Middle East. And then just this semester, in third year is really good because you have a lot more choice on modules that you want to study. So per semester, we've been doing 2 modules plus our dissertation. And so my optional modules that I've done this semester have been the diplomacy of the Arab-Israeli conflict and gender and world politics. And the next semester I'm doing 2 which are on the politics of South Asia, and one called statelessness and citizenship.
Oh, okay. And that kind of comes back into that scandal you were mentioning, I'm guessing? Or is that kind of completely separate?
I mean, I guess aspects of it do.
Okay, yeah. You can tell not really.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. And then in terms of your, because I know towards the end you have like a dissertation, right? What was your dissertation in the end that you decided to go with?
So I'm doing it on a critique of military intervention in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I'm focusing on Libya as my case study to support that.
Oh, okay. And so you say military intervention?
Yeah.
Okay. And like why it's not, why it does more harm than good?
Yeah. Why it's more detrimental than it's presented as within the West.
Okay. And I guess that's something you're very passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has there been examples of this in the past outside of like Libya that you could mention?
Yeah, so I just did an assignment that was on the idea of Muslim needing saving. And that was a narrative that was, perpetuated a lot in 2001. In the aftermath of 9/11.
Yeah.
And it was used to justify the invasion of Afghanistan. And so, again, like this saving narrative, and this saving narrative has been used for decades now to support the idea of intervention.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And with any other things you kind of wanted to do, or is that... What are the other ideas you kind of had? Because I know politics, there's so much you could talk about.
Yeah. So initially I wanted to do it on... focusing it more on British politics and how politicians from ethnic minority backgrounds propagate Islamophobia within the public sphere.
Yeah.
But then there wasn't enough literature out there to support my idea, and I thought, I had a range of options at the time that I could pick from, so I just went with one that I was equally passionate about.
Gotcha, yeah. I mean, speaking of literature, like I said, I don't really have much like knowledge on politics and whatnot. Yeah. If I wanted to kind of like increase that, right, and to learn more, because like you said, it is really important. Yeah. How would I, are there any books you could recommend or anything like that?
I wouldn't say that there's like one specific book that you can read, because again, it's
so broad. Yeah,
it's so broad that you can't cover everything. Yeah. But there are some books. Well, it just depends on your area of interest within politics. So there's one that I've read parts of, not all of, that I find really aligns with my interest, which is Orientalism by Edward Said. Okay.
And what kind of is that? What is Orientalism?
So Orientalism is it's a theory that the West has presented the East in a very backward and uncivilized way. Yeah. And that is the narrative that, a lot of Western politicians attach themselves to, and is even manipulated by the media to, again, like, justify things like Western intervention.
So it kind of links back to your
So that is, a big aspect of my dissertation that I'll be exploring.
And where did you kind of get the the idea for this dissertation? Was it through one of your modules, or is it something you've always... Okay.
Yeah, so in my second year, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I did international relations of the Middle East. And so I knew that I wanted to do something within that.
Yeah.
Because I really, really enjoyed that module. And so, yeah, I thought it would be a good way to continue that passion.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing it's very different in university level to A-levels, because A-levels is kind of set. So
yeah, it's very straightforward. You're not given any options on what you want to study. Everything is just decided for you.
Okay, yeah. Whereas obviously with modules based in university, you have to pick what those things are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And if we talk about politics more broadly in university, are there many like extracurricular activity related things related to politics that you've done?
Yeah.
Because I know there's like a Model UN thing.
Yeah.
So what are some things you've done?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of societies. Yeah. I currently chair a society at my university within our department. So our department is political science and international studies.
Okay.
That we call Pulsis. There's a committee called Pulsis in Colour that's kind of staff and student led. Mainly student led though.
Yeah.
But it's created, I chair this committee, and it's created to ensure that students from ethnic minority backgrounds feel represented, and that, you know, there is some sort of representation that's present within the department.
Gotcha.
Because again, politics is quite white dominated across all universities, and so it's a good way to get people involved. That wouldn't typically get involved.
So they don't feel as alienated.
Yeah. So there's that, and we've been trying to organise some events throughout the year.
Okay, that's really cool. Yeah.
And then yes, as you mentioned, we did have Model UN. So.
And how does it work? Because I always hear about it, but I don't know how it...
So at our university, we have Model UN that takes place on campus, which is one that I took part in just last summer. And there's also, and this, you know, you can just apply to and you get in depending on the number of places. Like, it's not a competitive thing. It's just, you know, if you want to do it, if you have any sort of interest in it, but you don't want to take it at a higher level, that's the way that you can take part in it. But there's also Model UN that takes place in Washington that the university takes students to. But again, this is a competitive opportunity that is given to students. There's also one that takes place in Lisbon, and then one in London. Okay, and those three are quite competitive to get into. But yeah, the one that I took part in was just on campus because I wanted to see what it was like.
The experience.
Yeah, because again, like, just like you, it was something that I would hear about from other students, but I didn't know
what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly what it was. So the way that it worked was we were given a document that consisted of a problem. So with ours, it was a climate emergency. Yeah, I think it was a natural disaster. It was like a storm that took place in a country. That country was present at Model UN, and we had to decide how to solve the issue. But but it was almost like different problems were coming along the process that the people who were chairing Model UN would then tell us. And then, you know, that might have created more issues for countries that had already like passed motions. But yeah, it was quite interesting.
Yeah. Would you like kind of recommend these kind of like extracurricular stuff to others?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. So I just wanted to know what it was like, which is why I took part into it. And so I think, again, like, if people want to get involved in it but don't want to take part in the competitive aspect of it, doing it on campus was really good. Gotcha, yeah.
And was there anything else you did in your time at university? Any extra stuff or...
I also wrote for the student newspaper in my first year. Yeah. Okay, talk to me about that. So when Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, I wrote an article on that.
Was it a critique article? Or?
Well, it was basically discussing like the good and bad aspects of it. Gotcha. That it was good that...
It's like a balanced,
you know, a politician from an ethnic minority background became Prime Minister. But then the bad aspects were that, you know, is this genuine representation?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I also did another one on the different immigration bills that have passed and, you know, what that means for immigrants and whether this is good or bad.
I guess
mainly
it's
bad.
A good impact.
Still.
Or mainly bad.
Yeah, but
okay. And maybe you could, if any of you want to check it out online. Is it available online or? I'm assuming it is. But
I think so.
yeah.
I can't, because this is my first year, so I don't know if it gets
if
taken
it's
down
like
depending
archived
on.
or fair enough. Yeah. Okay. And moving, from university and beyond, do you kind of know what you want to do long term, or what's that like for you at the moment, or you're still not fully decided?
Yeah, I'm still not decided on it because there is so much that you can do.
Yeah.
It's not like you have one path, like, if you're doing medicine, you just become a doctor.
That's it,
yeah. So, yeah, I think I do need time to decide that. But having studied politics, I know that, I wouldn't want to be a politician. I don't want to be at the forefront of politics. And, I still have so many questions that are unanswered. And so I think, doing a master's in some point in my life would be good.
What would a master's kind of involved? Would it be specific to, would it be kind of hyper-focused into one module, or is it a bit more broad? So again, I don't really know.
It depends on the master's that you take.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So the ones that I've looked into are, again, you have different optional modules that you can take. But then there might be one, like, say I'm quite interested in Middle Eastern politics. There have been some master's courses that I've come across that specifically focus on the Middle East. So again, it just depends on what you look into.
Gotcha, yeah. And you see how you did a specific module on the Arab-Israel conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, and how would that kind of, if we talk specifically to that module, how is that kind of taught, Is it just a series of lectures on the different views, or do you kind of go into the history of things? How does it kind of work?
Yeah, so we mainly focused on the historiography of the conflict, so looking at both narratives.
Yep.
And how they then inform the current issues that are ongoing now.
Okay. And is it like mainly lecture based, or is it like kind of group work, or?
So we had a lecture and then a seminar.
On the topic. And at the end, I'm guessing, is it assessed on like assignments, essays, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we had one assignment that was 50% of the module, and then we have an exam in January for that.
And like you said, there's a lot of transferable skills I'm assuming you get from this, so like communication skills. They can transfer to just all sorts of other courses. The next question I'd say is, if someone was interested in doing politics at university level, what's some of the advice you'd give them? Or maybe you could apply it to yourself specifically.
Yeah.
Some of the advice you'd give yourself.
Yeah, I think the main piece of advice I'd give is to be open-minded. Because I understand that at first it can be a bit overwhelming when you're in an environment where people have such different views to you. And that, I'm saying this from experience because, from sixth form where I studied politics, there were 5 other girls in my class. We all had very similar views on most topics. We were all kind of brought up in the same way. And so to go from that environment to university where there's people from all sorts of backgrounds and, again, have very different beliefs to you, it can feel a bit overwhelming and a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's very different, very foreign.
Yeah, but I think, just being open-minded about that and thinking that, no matter what people say, like, if you know that won't change your own core beliefs, then it's okay for these people to have these views, as long as they're not harmful, of course.
Yeah,
and
as long as it's not harmful.
It's okay for you to engage in some sort of meaningful debate.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're uncomfortable with that, then there's no, it's not necessary to force yourself to be in those situations.
And at the crux of it is really just gaining more knowledge and education, right?
Yeah, exactly. And seeing it as an opportunity to learn more.
And educate yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the way that I've taken these modules and studied these modules.
Okay. I'll ask you another question now, because that's kind of like delving into the past. If you speak about the future, and it's a bit of a difficult question, but in the concept of kind of, re-educating yourself and gaining knowledge, what are some things you think that people or the general public should learn about or become aware of, in the future? Because there's still so much that people just don't know about.
Yeah.
What would you say those kinds of things are? Again, it's a very, very big question.
Yeah,
I suppose there's a lot of
things
I would say. But what would you say?
I think the main way is probably by keeping up with the news
Mm-hmm.
and not just sticking to one media outlet.
Yeah.
That way, you know, you can expose yourself to multiple perspectives and find the right one that you align with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what specifically do you think are things people should become more educated about? Now, where do you think there's at the moment in day-to-day life in society in general, are there gaps? Maybe, you know, I don't know if you agree with this, but perhaps with the I think it was the Windrush scandal.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like whole topic of identity and like a post-colonial Britain.
Yeah.
That's something I don't really know much about, to be honest. But there are things kind of like that you think people should be aware about?
Yeah, I think currently topics that are discussed a lot, specifically within social media.
Yeah.
I think by educating yourself on those sorts of topics, it's a good way to inform your own beliefs on the topics as well as prevent the spread of misinformation.
And kind of become more, I guess, be able to kind of speak about it, to be able to have those discussions about it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, it's difficult to educate yourself completely because, you know, there's so much to cover within these topics, but doing the best that you can with that.
Yeah. I don't know, there's something that just comes to mind now as well. Is you not find it a bit overwhelming, like the scope of politics and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think once you find your niche, once you find your area of interest, it becomes a lot easier to manage that.
Yeah, and have you felt like you found your niche?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it always like that?
No, definitely not. I started off by being quite interested in British politics because that's just what I studied at A-level, and I thought, you know, this is my main area of interest because there were certain topics within that I really liked. But then, as I got to university and I learnt about different modules that were offered, that's when I thought, oh, I'm more interested in these areas than British politics.
Gotcha, yeah. And do you think that will change again in the future, or do you think this is really...
Possibly.
But you never know, to be honest. Yeah, it's a bit of a different
It depends
question.
on what you expose yourself to and what you decide to learn.
Are there any things, like throughout your time at university, you look back and think, I should have done this, or I should have done that? Any opportunities, or do you think you've kind of...
Yeah, I think getting involved in more opportunities in my first and second year. Because I've done more in my third year, but given how much you have to do in third year, I think it's good to space it out between your first and second year. And just to experiment really and just have fun with what you see.
Yeah.
I definitely say that, you know, don't apply to every single opportunity that you see because it can become quite overwhelming quite fast.
To handle all at once.
Yeah. But, you know, if you find something that you have even the smallest interest in, just to give it a go and see what it's like.
Okay, yeah. And if someone was, you know before applying to university, was thinking like, oh, I kind of want to do politics, I kind of don't. What kind of advice would you give them in terms of deciding that's what they want to do long term, as a degree?
To speak to people around you is a big one.
Okay, yeah.
You know, if you studied politics at A-level, to speak to your teachers about it, see what they have to say about it. Also, having a look online.
Yeah.
On different university pages, seeing what they have to offer, even emailing these universities, asking for more information about the courses. I think that is a good way to inform your decision of whether or not to study politics in the future.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well earlier, as a Pulsis.
Yeah.
It's the department of the university. Is that the only politics department, or is there? Because I don't really know how it works.
Well, there's politics and international relations. Well, international studies is one department.
Yeah.
And then there's IDD, which is international relations and development, which is another department, which falls under the School of Government.
Yeah. Always kind of, how do you, if someone asked you, just, you didn't know, to define international relations, what is that?
I'd say, I mean, there's a lot of overlap between politics and international relations. You can take these courses separately.
Yeah.
But again, there is a lot of overlap, which is why I decided to take it as politics and international relations. I'd say international relations is more about the politics on a global scale and seeing how different states, different actors interact with one another.
Okay. And again, this is a bit more, I guess, personal towards you.
Yeah.
But why not like going into like politics as a career, like becoming a politician?
Yeah.
What kind of takes you? Because I know you mentioned you're interested in British politics.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Why not? So I just have curiosity.
I'd say it's just not what I'm that interested in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not where your interests lie.
If I did get involved with that aspect of politics, like, being at the forefront of it.
Yeah.
I think I'd find it quite overwhelming. Yeah. And so I just wouldn't want to be part of it.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, let's say you were given the opportunity to kind of just write your own book about a specific part of politics.
Yeah.
What would that be for you? What would you find? What's your most passionate part of politics?
It's probably what I'm doing my dissertation on.
Oh, okay.
And
the
just
whole
like
concept of
Western
military intervention.
and like Western hypocrisy.
Yeah. Particularly, I guess, like, there's lots of examples, I guess, in the past as well, with like the Vietnam War and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where you've seen these kinds of examples of military intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you kind of like during your research and stuff kind of learned from looking into all of that?
Into
the whole like concept of military intervention of the West.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Researching into dissertation.
Yeah.
What was like kind of like the big like things you found out about or learned about?
Yeah. I'd say the main one is how long this has been going on for.
Yeah.
And how this hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't even know if it would change or if it would end.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I guess, the final question is it's the biggest one possibly.
Go on.
Be ready. What is politics? What does it mean to you?
That is a very good question, yeah.
It's a hard one, and there's a billion answers, but what's your answer?
I'd say it's mainly the interaction between the state and its citizens in the simplest way possible.
That's a good answer.
But I do think you can have a lot of different definitions on that. Yeah.
That's your definition.
Yeah, that's my definition.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know if it's the right definition, but it's my personal definition.
Yeah. But what's important is that's yours.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of different things come under that.
And that umbrella, I guess, yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, well, it's been amazing talking to you. I've learned a lot. Hopefully the viewers have as well. And yeah, thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.